listening to the VMX Show, Season 5.
Hey now, and welcome to the VMX Show. This is Season 5, Episode 5. You have reached level 5. Keep on fighting because the winner is you! Let's get to the questions and comments. Kind of a low-key episode. Not that many questions and comments. I don't have a guest, but I am going to be talking extensively about the SOPA and PIPA events of the last week. And I'll update everybody on that because it seems there's some misconceptions and there's some confusion. So I'm going to try and clear all that up. But let's get to your questions and comments right away. First, we have a comment from the Nintendo Pimp. He says, here's a question for you. What do you think about the rock music from the 90s known as grunge? Did it help or hurt rock music? Well, I'll tell you what. I don't think it... I think in some ways it helped, and in some ways it hurt. I don't think that you could really say that it definitely did one thing one way or another. Back in the 90s, I mean, that's when I was a teenager, and I was actually very into the whole grunge music thing back then, like Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, and all that, Soundgarden. And I'm still into some of those bands, like Alice in Chains. I mean, even though their singer, Lane Staley, died, but they eventually came back with a new singer and a new album and everything. But, I've come to think that there never really was a style of music called grunge because there's really nothing that differentiates it from anything else, really. I mean, just think of the way Soundgarden sounds and the way Nirvana sounds and then the way, like, Alice in Chains sound. And you have three completely distinct sounds. So I think it was really more of a scene than a genre. But that's my 2 cents on that. Whether it helped or hurt, I don't know. I mean, I think the only fair answer there is a little bit of both. A little from column A, a little from column B. New Guy High says 2 questions. Do you like YouTube poops? And what do you think about Ron Paul? Sorry about the randomness, just wanted your opinions. That certainly is randoms. The YouTube poops, alright, I hate to say it because a lot of people put a lot of work into these and whatnot, but they're funny for a little while, but it's gotten so old at this point that just stop. You know what I mean? It hasn't been funny for like 3 years. Just stop. That's what I gotta say to the people doing YouTube poops. He also left a comment, said, "By the way, you are so fucking awesome." Well, that's old joke, but I'll take it. I don't know how the hell to say this guy's name. Real Suko, I guess. I don't know. He says, "Sweet baby Jesus, this just showed up in my subscriptions box." Well, congratulations. Actually, that's a good segue. If you haven't been to the Facebook page yet, definitely go to the Facebook page and hit like, www.facebook.com/NecroVMX. Hit like. Now, there's several reasons you should do this. I had a lot of people have liked it already. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at the Facebook page right now, and I just got another notification. 160 likes, and I only set it up the other day, so that's pretty cool. Some people have some fucking weird names. Some people say like, I don't like Facebook. Get over it, really? I mean, come on, get over it. Seriously. Don't be like the only 2 douchebags who don't have a fucking Facebook. You don't have to play fucking Farmville or anything like that. Now, the reason I've done this, the reason I think it's a good idea, one is that it lets me interact with people because I use Facebook extensively. For Kazara Studios stuff, for personal stuff and whatnot. And now that I've set up this public page, it allows me to interact with people easier than YouTube and whatnot. And a lot of times I just want to throw out an update, like what I'm up to or something, or I just want to say something real quick. And it's like, I don't want to have to do like a whole video. And YouTube has a system of what they call bulletins, which kind of reminds me of like the old MySpace bulletins, back when MySpace was a thing that people used. But it doesn't really work. Like, nobody really gets the bulletins unless they're seeking them out, you know what I mean? So that's something that, I decided to just quit trying with that and just do the Facebook page. Another thing is I do get complaints about the videos don't show up right away in the subscription box, or sometimes the videos don't show up at all. YouTube's migrating to this new system. Starting March 1st, everybody's channels are going to have that ridiculous new design that they've been touting, which just, it's a nightmare. I don't know how I'm going to deal with that. But, just when I was starting to like the current design, too. Go figure. But, this way you'll definitely get the updates. If you hit like, you'll get them on your news feed on Facebook. And because every video I will post on Facebook, not that I'm posting the videos on Facebook, but I will alert you to the link, and all you have to, you'll get them. You'll fucking get them. So definitely go to facebook.com/NecroVMX and hit like there. It's not a friends thing. Somebody said, do this fast because Facebook only allows up to 5,000 friends. It's not a personal page, so it's not. That limit isn't an account. It's not a personal account. It's a public account because I set myself up as what they call it's called a public figure page. And instead of having friends, you just like the page. It's kind of like subscribing on YouTube, and there's no limit to how many likes you can have. So just wanted to clear that up for everybody. All right, moving on. Still got the remnants of that cold. It's pretty much gone, but just a little sniffle here and there. We did get a shitload of snow here, too. I don't know why I'm talking about that. Okay, Vitaly97 says, ha ha ha, Necro, your Minesweeper comment was priceless. Well, thank you. I try. Nettlebox says, what's the most shameless product placement you ever saw in a game? I recently played Biker Mice from Mars on Super NES, and it doesn't just advertise Snickers candy bars, but uses them as a power-up. Well, actually, I discussed this with a few people and talked about product placement in games and whatnot, and I was thinking about it. And I think that there's two titles that come to mind right away. One is called Darkened Sky. Darkened Sky was a third-person action-adventure game for PC and GameCube. And it just seemed like any other action-adventure game in a medieval fantasy setting with not-so-great gameplay, terrible voice acting, But then you find out after playing it for a while that it's actually about Skittles. Like, the whole thing is about Skittles candy. And I actually learned something from Darkened Sky. I've never actually played it, but I've seen video of it. I actually did learn something from it. I assume that Skittles was plural because it sounds plural, and that if you had one piece of the candy, that's a Skittle, and that several of them are Skittles. You buy a bag of Skittles, but apparently one of them is not a Skittle; it's a Skittles. That is, I don't know, and there were all sorts of weird things that the Skittles company made the developer do. Like they would send them notes like you have to take all the snakes out of the game. And they're like, well, why? Why do we have to take the snakes out of the game? And they never got an answer. It was like, well, they could be snake-like, but they can't be snakes. So it's just like a nightmare. The other thing that comes to mind is one of the poster boys for the video game Crash of 1983, which was a game for the Atari 2600 called Chase the Chuckwagon, which was a ridiculous maze game made by Ralston Purina. Back then, it was like there was a kind of a video game boom that led to the Crash, and everybody was making video games. People who didn't know what they were doing were making video games. And Ralston Purina was like, "Hey, this fucking video game thing is really taking off. Yeah, we should make one. Yeah, let's fucking open a video game division. Pass the cocaine." And they made a game about dog food. That was the product placement. Dog food. Well, I think that's the most shameless because they should have felt shame. And the fact that they released it means they didn't feel shame. So, sorry to spend so long on one question, but I found that was a very interesting question. Dark Hill Pick 28 says, what's your view on the majority of metalheads bashing different genres of music that's not metal? I see a little bit of this. I don't know if it's really a majority. Sometimes you can have what's called a vocal minority. A vocal minority is when it seems that everybody thinks something, and when it turns out is that they're the minority, they're just the only ones talking about it. And I think that I don't know, like most metalheads that I've met are into all sorts of music. I'm a metalhead, and I'm also into rock and jazz and classical. Pretty much any genre of music that you name, I'll find something worthwhile to listen to. I've heard a little bit of this, and it's nothing more than pure elitism, and really, you find this in every single genre of music, every single fandom. You find it in you find it in video games. Like, there are people who play nothing but first-person shooters. There are people who play nothing but RPGs. There are people who play, nothing but puzzle games or casual games, and I don't know. That's all right. Let's move on. Jazzmaster909 says, when you mix John Romero with Doom, you get Episode 4 Map 2. And, and I responded to him already, and I'll read out my response. I said, to be fair, it was an okay level. It just should have been placed later on. Like, maybe it should have been Map 6 or so. You're not prepared for it. Because the first map it's not that the first map is hard. It's that the first map, you don't have really good weapons because you're starting off with just a pistol. There's not that many things to pick up. And there's very limited health. So there's a good chance that you'll be, especially if you're going after all the secrets, and there's that one where you get stuck in a very small enclosed place with a couple of barons. It can be very difficult, especially if you don't really have that much ammo. And you could potentially be looking into, walking into Episode 4 Map 2 with very little health, very little ammo, and then boom, hardest level in the game. It was well designed, but it wasn't placed well. The amazing Tony Rose says, of all the versions you've played, which is your favorite version of Final Fantasy IV? For me, it's a toss-up between the Complete Collection versus... For me, it's a toss-up between the Complete Collection version and the DS remake. On one hand, the Complete Collection is the definitive version and looks beautiful, but on the other hand, I like the DS version's difficulty better. It seems a bit harder, maybe it's just me, and I like the DS translation just a little bit more. And I understand that the DS one, I haven't played the DS one. I understand that it also has voice acting, and from what I've been told, it's actually very good voice acting. I haven't played it, so it's sort of off the table. I'm going to go ahead and say the PSP one, what you call, Final Fantasy IV Complete Collection, is the best one. Simply because it's, I prefer the old school graphics anyway. I mean, I don't think everything has to be 3D. I like high definition sprites. That's sort of like when you were a kid and you were playing like old Super NES or Genesis games or whatever, and you imagine the games in the future, that's what you imagine them looking like. So I like that those kind of games eventually did happen after that whole awkward 3D transition. Plus you get the sequel, you get the after years, you get an interlude, which is a new scenario. It's very short, but it is a new scenario. And it's like... it's a good package for only $30. So I gotta say, yeah, definitely that one. S. Brennan 081492 said, could be worse. You could have played the Lynx. I don't know what you're talking about. Moving on. Splashfire0x says, hey, Necro. Here's my question. Out of all the fighting games you played, which is your favorite and least favorite? Great episode as always, Necro. My favorite fighting game is probably... that's a tough one. Probably Capcom vs. SNK 2. I do have 3 versions of it, so that does say something. I really like the new Mortal Kombat, and I'll probably be getting another copy of that for the Vita when that comes out. The worst is, wow, I've played some bad ones. There's a couple that come to mind. One is Super 3D Balls on the Super NES. That's really bad. Another one on the Super NES that only came out in Japan. It was just called Bastard. It was terrible. There was one on the Saturn called Battle Monsters. I have that. I bought my Saturn on eBay back in the day, and it came with like 20 games or something, and some of them were really good. And I actually did get a really good underrated fighting game called Golden Axe The Duel that I really enjoyed. And I got some 3D fighting games like Last Bronx and Virtual Fighter and all that. Last Bronx was okay. It wasn't that bad. But then I got this game called Battle Monsters, and that was just... what a nightmare. Bad graphics, bad gameplay, bad music, bad everything. Bad battle system. I gotta say, that was probably the worst. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna say is the worst. But this... I don't know. Like, there was a lot of bad ones. Moving on. Josie Greg says, finally, the Guardians of the Universe are evil, sort of. I was waiting for that moment since I started reading Green Lantern. What do you think about it? You know what's funny? Back in Volume 3 in the 90s, it seemed that they were gearing up towards making the Guardians evil. They were introducing a sort of sinister undertone to the Guardians, and before they got it, it was being fleshed out very slowly. And before they got the chance to flesh it out, the whole Reign of the Supermen thing happened, and they destroyed Coast City, and they decided to write Hal Jordan out of the book and make him a villain and introduce Kyle Rayner, and they killed off the majority of the Guardians, and there was only the one left, which was Ganthet, and he was like the good Guardian, and then they brought them back and everything eventually, and they've been, I know that Jeff Johns has been slowly killing off Guardians and making them a little bit more sinister. And I definitely think I was very surprised when I saw Larfleeze at the end of that one issue there, and I was like, oh, so he's the one behind all this. And I'm thinking they're sort of making him a villain again. He started off as a villain, and then he became sort of more of a good guy, and now he's a villain again. But then I read the next issue, which came out I think last week, and I was like, actually, I think the Guardians are still the bad guys. So I could be biased. Who knows? I like Larfleeze. He's a funny character. Certainly he's a sinister guy, but I think the Guardians are worse at this point, and they're definitely, they want, at this point, they want to wipe out the Green Lanterns and move on to something else, but I think somebody finally needs to put them in their place. I don't know if you've been reading Red Lantern, but they've been kind of hinting that Krona might not be dead either, which is kind of a shame, because I just thought that whole thing where he got killed, that was my desktop for a while. So, okay, moving on. This is from Red Devil Dazzy 2007. Nice episode, John. When did I become on first fucking name terms with this guy? Alright, whatever. Looking forward to listening to your next one. My question is, do you own any gaming plushies? No, I'm a dude. I don't have plushies. Alright, moving on. Usora says, or maybe it's Uso-Ra. Like, Uso-Ra? Oh, hockey please. Hey, Necro, what do you think about Final Fantasy Type 0? Are you excited for it? I don't know if excited is the word. I'll pick it up. I'll see. I would say I'm skeptical, but hopeful for it. I'm very excited about the sequel to 13, which is coming out very soon. Spikester55 says, hey, Necro, have you played the Legacy of Kain series? If so, what do you think about them? I'm asking this because there might be a new game in development. By the way, great vid as usual. I still don't care if they're making... they're still making those. I played the second one, which was called Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. I had it for PC, and it wasn't bad. It was just boring, though. I just okay, alright. Another 3D platformer, alright, whatever. Mr. Go Lucky Fish says, hey, Necro, great videos. What do you think about tactical RPGs, such as Final Fantasy Tactics? Those are my favorite types of art. I love those. Final Fantasy Tactics is my favorite Final Fantasy game. I love Ogre Battle and Fire Emblem and all that shit. Great shit. Love it. Move past here. Let's see. Jazzmaster909 says, last week I asked if John Romero would be helpful in Doom 4's development. Do you think it would be great if the original id team would team up? Tom Hall, American McGee, Bobby Prince, etc. for Doom 4. It's very unlikely, though. If Rage was cool, then Doom 4 should be awesome. I don't know. I kind of, like a lot of these guys, like, they did good work on Doom, but they didn't do as much as you think they did. It was really, John Carmack was the one that was doing most of the work, and then John Romero was doing, like, the second most amount of work. And then all those guys, like, they'll design a level here and there. Bobby Prince, stole a bunch of Metallica and Pantera songs and turned them into midis, and, I don't know. I want to see what it is. I don't want to speculate on that. Robert, the Game Dude, says, with me, it's Game Boy 75%, Game Gear 25%. Assume he's responding actually to Armageddon time. Moving on. Spikester55 says, hey, Necro, here's another question. I don't know if you've said something on this matter, but what is your opinion on Screw Attack? Personally, I hate how they shit all over the PSP, and now with the Vita coming out, they're shitting on it, also saying that it doesn't work and there's no reason to buy it, basically. Well, don't listen to them. I enjoy their top 10 lists and a few of their things, like I like Death Battle and a few of their articles and whatnot. But for the most part, Screw Attack... Okay, I gotta talk about this. Screw Attack wants you to believe that they're this indie this indie journalism company, and that they're just a bunch of cool guys and, you know, some girls hanging out, and that they're all about fun and everything. But really, I mean, they're evil. I mean, and I know they're evil, but I still enjoy some of their work. Like that guy, that Craig guy that runs it. I'm actually friends with him on Facebook, and all he talks about is basketball. But it kind of gets old after a while. But you know, you got to remember, he's a very ruthless businessman. He's done some pretty unethical things. You know, I don't go to ScrewAttack that often. I don't agree with them like 80% of the time. So I'll just like pop by every once in a while to see if there's a new death battle or a new top 10 list. But pretty much that's all I mean, them shitting on the PSP, I don't know. I kind of think there might be ulterior motives there. Just saying. Moving on here. Mr. Terrorface asks, what are my thoughts on digital's piracy and censorship? Well, I'm going to be talking about the SOPA and PIPA thing after the news, actually, so I'll get to that in a little bit. Dave Cornfan says, great episode as always, Necro. Well, thank you. I was wondering, are you a fan of the Marvel films, and are you looking forward to the Avengers movie? I'll get back to that. Personally, I'm looking forward to the Avengers movie and see all the characters interacting with each other on the big screen, and will hopefully be epic, though it might end up being a clusterfuck, but I'm hoping for the former. Well, really, that's the entire thing. They're just going to be interacting with each other, and I mean, that is not a solid premise for a film. Let me tell you, about the Marvel movies, and I assume you don't mean movies based on Marvel properties in general, but you mean the ones that are interconnected. I really liked Iron Man. Iron Man 2 was okay. It was fine. It wasn't, like, great, though. I hated The Incredible Hulk. Hated The Incredible Hulk. I liked the first Hulk movie, but the Incredible Hulk, hated it. What else is there? There's the Thor I saw, and I thought, okay, well, that was okay. You know, it was kind of like Iron Man 2. It was okay. It wasn't anything special, really. Really wanted Natalie Portman to show me her wormhole, but she just went, no. So, what else? Well, Captain America I haven't seen. So, really, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really into this whole Avengers thing. I think it's a bad idea. I don't see it being great. I'm just going to move on here. Insane Wayne 253 says, couple of questions. What was the most disturbing movie you've seen in recent years? Well, I watched Postal yesterday. That was pretty fucking disturbing. Have you ever done top or pen and paper gaming? If not, no worries. No, I never have. What skills would you suggest to build up first in Skyrim? Okay, definitely, you got it. Okay, as much as it's important to learn a variety of skills, you have to train a combat skill. Pick a combat skill. Because if you start training everything else but combat skills, and you get to be a really high level, the enemies in this kind of level with you, not as much or as obnoxiously as in Oblivion, but they do get stronger as you level up, and if you're not skilled in combat, you're going to get owned. So either pick one-handed, two-handed, or archery, and definitely stick with one of those. I started with archery, and then when I maxed that out, I moved on to one-handed. Definitely do smithing, do alchemy, do pick one magic. You know, well, do restoration and then pick another one. Like, definitely have restoration because you need to heal yourself, and then pick like either destruction or conjuration or whatever, illusion or whatever. And but definitely, you want restoration. You want one combat skill. You want alchemy. You want what did I say? I said something else. I said restoration. Oh, whatever I said, and pick one of the armor skills. Light armor or heavy armor, and go with that. And definitely do pickpocketing, because it levels quickly and you get some cool shit. He says also, in Chemical Plant Zone has short frosted hair and cries when it watches Amistad. I know. Actually, no. Chemical Plant Zone is a fat Mormon housewife who cries when she breaks her favorite glass cat. So that's it for questions and comments. If you're confused, don't worry about it. Just don't even worry about it. I'm not going to explain it. Just don't even worry about it. Talk about SOPA. Now, a lot of people are going out there saying SOPA is dead. You know, victory, victory, a winner is you. Let's party down. It's over. I'm here to tell you it's not over. What happened is that they were going to vote on there's two versions of the bill. One's called SOPA, which is the Stop Online Piracy Act. And the other is called PIPA, which is the Protect IP Act. And they're both basically the same thing, just with slightly different wording. I think that PIPA was worse than SOPA, but basically, you know, one was the House's version, you know, the House of Representatives, and the other was the Senate's version. And they were going to vote on PIPA, actually, on the 24th, which was later this week. But that's not going to happen now. Not now. The bill is not canceled. What happened was they took SOPA and PIPA, and what they did is they shelved it indefinitely. Now, what shelving means is basically they took it off the table. Off the table means it's no longer submitted for consideration. The person who the people, I should say, because it's more than one person, who submitted it has withdrawn it from consideration, meaning that they are not going to vote on it. So when something's being considered, it's on the table. Okay? So when it's withdrawn, they say it's off the table and it's on the shelf. Now, that doesn't mean it's dead. It's not in the trash, it's in the shelf. So they could take it back off the shelf and put it back on the table at any time. Now, indefinitely doesn't mean forever. That's what Craig from Screwtech said. He said, "Yay, indefinitely means forever." And I'm like, I had to tell him, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. Indefinitely does not mean forever. It means not defined. It means that they haven't shelved it for a specific amount of time. It could be a day, it could be a year, it could be 10 years, it could be forever. So, because you could shelve something for like a month. You could say, okay, we're shelving this for a month while we deal with something else. Or we're shelving this for a month while we all go out and get blowjobs and fuck hookers. You know what I'm saying? They could schedule when something's supposed to come off the shelf. In this case, they're saying it's shelved indefinitely. Now, a lot of bills die like this. A lot of them just waste away on the shelf and are forgotten. But that doesn't mean that they can't be taken off the shelf and it can't be resubmitted for consideration after it's reworded slightly or retooled or the people aren't paying attention and there's no, you know, mass protests, or, you know, the furor has died down, the political landscape has changed, or maybe, and this is, a lot of people are saying this, and I agree with it, they might decide to tack it on to another bill as a rider. So basically, they could take a very unpopular piece of legislation like SOPA or PIPA, and they could make it a part of a larger and more popular piece of legislation, like you know, something to cut taxes, or, you know, or green bill, you know, something to do with the environment, something that has a lot of popularity and that almost everybody is for, and then they'll tack it on there as a rider. And then when the big bill passes, so does the little bill. And that's how they sneak nasty little pieces of legislation. Now, and this also puts a lot of pressure on the president. Because if the president is opposed to one bill, but really wants another one passed, and this, let's say, we'll say, free cookies for everyone / SOPA bill comes onto the president's desk, and he's like, well, I could veto this because I'm against SOPA, but then I'd be vetoing the free cookies for everyone legislation, and that's very popular, and that would cost me the next election, so I can't do that. So then he signs it. And that's how it works. That's how politics works. So I'm sorry to disillusion anyone, but you need to stay vigilant. The fight is not over. There will be new pieces of legislation. You know, stop online piracy. I can understand that. A lot of people are against this for the wrong reasons. They're against this because they're like, oh, you know, like I want to be able to, you know, get free music and all this shit. I want to be able to, you know, that it is illegal already. And that's part of the reason why SOPA isn't even needed. For example, in the past week, popular online file sharing network Mega Upload was taken down by the United States government. It was seized by the FBI. The domain is no longer there. As a matter of fact, I'm going to come and I'm going to go to Mega Upload right now, and this is what it says. This domain name associated with the website megaupload.com has been seized pursuant to an order by an U.S. District Court. A federal grand jury has indicted several individuals and entities allegedly involved in the operation of megaupload.com and related websites, charging them with the following crimes: conspiracy to commit racketeering, conspiracy to commit copyright infringement, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and criminal copyright infringement. These are all real crimes, and they are wrong. It is wrong to steal things. And I take the position that Google takes. Stop piracy, but don't censor things. Stop piracy, not liberty. I think that was, or something like that. The problem with SOPA wasn't that they wanted to stop piracy. That they don't want to stop piracy. They don't give a shit about that. They only say that so the entertainment industry would support their bill, which is not about piracy. It's about control. It's about censorship. It's about stopping things that they don't like. For example, out of all the presidential candidates that are out right now, and a few of them have dropped out, but right now you have Barack Obama, of course. You have Mitt Romney. You have Newt Gingrich. You have Rick Santorum, and you have, Rick Perry's gone, which is a good thing because he's a fucking idiot. Huntsman is gone. Herman Cain is gone, which is a damn shame because I was going to vote for him. And you have Ron Paul. And I never answered the question about Ron Paul. I forgot. I'll answer the question about Ron Paul in a second. All of these people, except for Rick Santorum, are against the SOPA and PIPA bills. Now, some of them haven't really talked about it all that much, but they've all said, not a good idea. So, why is Rick Santorum for it? Well, I'll tell you why. Because he would love to censor the internet, and I'll tell you why he'd love to censor the internet. Go to fucking Google right now. I'm going to go to Google right now. I'm going to go to Google, and I'm going to type in Santorum. Now, you would think that typing in the name of a presidential campaign person, when you type Santorum in, you would get political things. What's the first thing? SpreadingSantorum.com. Is this his website? He wants to spread himself? He wants to become president? No. It says Santorum. Noun, the frothy mixture of lube and fecal matter that is sometimes the byproduct of anal sex. And that's because Rick Santorum, a few years back, said some really fucked up shit about gay people, and he attacked this one guy, Dan Savage, and this is Dan Savage's revenge. Now, he has the right to do that because in America we have freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and the internet is a free place where you can do these things as long as you're not, threatening anyone or spreading hate material or anything like that. And some might say, okay, well, that's sort of hate material, but they're not saying, kill Rick Santorum or anything like that. They're just saying, they're giving his name an alternate definition to embarrass the guy. They're allowed to do that. He would love to do that. He would love to take that off. And under SOPA, he would say, well, I don't know how he would do it under SOPA. He would do it under PIPA, actually. And he would have Dan Savage's website taken down, and then he would have Google taken down for daring to link to it. So there you go. Now, the thing about Ron Paul, he's the most against SOPA and PIPA because he's very free speech. All right, here's the deal with Ron Paul. This is what I think of Ron Paul. I voted for him in the 2008 presidential primaries. Of course, he didn't win. By the time it got to my state, it was down to just him and McCain, and I voted for him, and then he didn't win, of course, so it was McCain was the candidate, and then I voted for McCain, and of course he lost too, so, I'm not going to vote for him this time, because I think that he's very weak on foreign policy. I understand that he's anti-war, and I respect that, and I understand that, he feels that a lot of the, we'll say, activities that we've had in the Middle East are, they have ulterior motives. and I respect that, and I somewhat agree with him. But he's like, when he says, oh, let Iran do what they want, let them have nuclear weapons, they're not going to do anything bad. And I'm like, he's very naive about it. And I understand we need to focus on domestic issues. He would be a great president if it was peacetime, but it's not peacetime right now. We need somebody who's a little stronger in foreign policy. Unfortunately, my candidate of choice was Herman Cain. He dropped out, so I guess I'm voting for Mitt Romney. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Newt Gingrich either. So, but yeah, all right. Enough fucking politics. Enough fucking legalese. Let's. I just wanted to just touch on the SOPA thing one last time. It's about control. It's about censorship. It's about them wanting to control the internet, and that's wrong. And like I said, it's like attaching an unpopular piece of legislation to a popular piece of legislation to get it passed. And they're saying, okay, our censor the internet bill isn't going to work, so let's call it Stop Online Piracy. And then they get the ESA, the MPAA, the music industry all behind them, and they think they're going to pass it. And of course, a lot of people realized what it's really about. It's about censoring the internet. It's about saying, first of all, it was so open interpretation that if you upload a video of yourself playing Skyrim, they could say that violates copyright. Now, of course, we have something called fair use, which means that you can use copyrighted material for certain instances. Now, this doesn't even apply. It doesn't even get as far as fair use, because uploading, gameplay videos or whatever, that's not even copyright infringement at all, because what you're doing is you're using a copyrighted work to create what is known as I forgot what it's called. It just flew out of my head. When I had Kakeo Silverton on here, she explained it though. It's an original work that you've used, and you could do that. You could do that as long as you say what you use. So, like if you take, I don't know, like YouTube poops. They use copyrighted material, but you're using them in a manner that creates something new. You're allowed to do that. And then there's fair use. And you could argue that. So, that doesn't really apply. Now, the thing is that the SOPA sweeps in so quickly and takes down your video, takes down YouTube, and indicts you so fast before you have the chance to even defend yourself. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go after people doing gameplay videos. They probably wouldn't. I'm not saying that they're going to go after people making YouTube poops. They probably wouldn't. But they might go after people that they don't like. You know what I'm saying? And a big part of SOPA that I was very opposed to was the fact that you don't even need to be the copyright holder to make the claim. That's fraud as far as I'm concerned. If you make a claim against someone for copyright infringement and you're not the owner of that copyright, then that's fraud, isn't it? It's always been fraud. In the history of copyright law in the United States and internationally, really, that has always been fraud. Because you're putting yourself in a position where you're representing yourself as the person who owns a copyright when you don't. So under the SOPA law, it's not a law, and it probably won't ever become a law unless they sneak it by us, which we got to keep an eye out for. But under the SOPA bill and the PIPA bill, whichever one wound, because either one is terrible. I think PIPA was slightly worse, but I digress. They would say, "Oh, thank you so much, sir, for reporting this act of copyright infringement. We'll get right on it." They assume good faith on the behalf of the person who makes the claim, and basically you have to prove that you didn't do it. And that tramples a very important part of our judicial system, which is you're supposed to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. But under these laws, if they ever got passed, you would be presumed guilty until proven innocent at the word of a third party who doesn't even own the copyright and might have ulterior motives for reporting it, such as they don't even like you. So that's what I have to say about that. At this point, there are very few supporters. The bill is shelved indefinitely. This is a good thing. But it's not the best thing. The best thing would have been they voted on it and then it got shot down. That would have been the best thing. The reason that they shelved it is because they knew the bill was going to be defeated. They knew SOPA and PIPA would not pass in their current forms, so they're going to shelve it. Because this way they could resurrect it, name it something else, word it slightly differently, and sneak it by us. So everybody, don't say victory. Don't start dancing. Calm the fuck down and get with the program. Stay vigilant. That's what you have to do. You have to stay vigilant. Because this does affect you. This does affect the video game industry, the music industry, the entertainment industry in general. Because while Capcom may not come after you for putting up videos of Street Fighter 4, the guy you beat might. You understand? You put up a video of you beating some guy in Street Fighter 4 on Xbox Live and say, man, look at this guy, he's like the worst player ever, and you put up this video. Capcom doesn't care, but the guy might say, hey, that's copyright infringement, and report it. Your video gets taken down. YouTube gets taken down for harboring the video, and you're indicted for a possibly serious crime, a felony, which you wouldn't be convicted, but you would have the taint of accusation. You would have a record. And you would have to deal with a lot of shit. You would have legal fees. You might have to plea bargain. Even if it got thrown out, it would be a huge hassle. And then that guy who's sitting there with his troll face going, problem? You understand what I'm saying? I hope you understand what I'm saying. But let's get to the news. Enough of that. Let's get to the news. Now, it's been kind of a slow news week, so I only have a couple of stories to talk about. Max Payne 3, unfortunately for big fans of Max Payne 3 has been delayed. It's been a long time since the previous game, which was Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne, and I know a lot of people have been looking forward to Max Payne 3, but it is right now delayed. Now, I don't have a release date. It was supposed to be, sometime in March, and then it was supposed to be sometime in May. Right now they're saying they're moving it into the next fiscal year, for which this company in particular begins April 1st. So I don't have a release date, but I can tell you it will be after April 1st. Mortal Kombat's coming to the Vita. I mentioned this last week, and I kind of questioned. I wondered if it was going to be the complete edition, and I can tell you that it will be the complete edition. It's not called Mortal Kombat Complete. It's just going to be called Mortal Kombat. But the version of Mortal Kombat for the Vita will have all of the content from the PlayStation 3 version, which will include Kratos and will include all of the downloadable content. So you're getting Scarlet, you're getting Kenshi, you're getting Rain, you're getting Freddy Krueger, you're getting all of the costumes and everything, and all the extra fatalities, and also it will have a second challenge tower full of another 150 challenges. I can tell you, and this really speaks more to the Vita than anything, according to Ed Boon, it has all the content from the PlayStation 3 version and more, and runs at 60 frames per second. It also will use the touchscreen. It won't use the rear touchscreen, but it will use the touchscreen for fatalities. So you could, slice with your finger or whatever. So, that's pretty cool. So there is new content coming. Just wanted to mention that. And definitely I'll probably be getting that. Little Capcom news. There's been some new videos for Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which have teased some. Well, they've announced some new players into the mix, and they've also teased some. Now, I've somewhat lost track of everybody that I've announced and haven't announced, so let me just give you the entire list of everybody that's so far definitely confirmed for Street Fighter Cross Tekken. On the Street Fighter side, we have Ryu, Ken, Guile, Abel, Chun-Li, Cammy, Sagat, Dalsim, Poison, Yugo, Ibuki, Rolento, Zangief, Rufus, Balrog, Vega, Juri, and M. Bison. On the Tekken side, we have Kazuya, Nina, King, Marduk, Bob, Julia, Hwoarang, Steve, Yoshimitsu, Raven, Kuma, Heihachi, Lily, Asuka, Law, Paul, and Xiaoyu. There are some guests who will be appearing only on the PlayStation 3 and Vita version, so unfortunately they won't be on the Xbox version, but Cole from the Infamous series will be in the PlayStation 3 and Vita versions. Toro, who is a cartoon character, will also be appearing. And also Kuro, who's also a cartoon character that is somewhat related to Toro. I don't know. So that's what's going on. In the latest reveal video, when they talked about, Juri and M. Bison and Jeyu, they showed two characters in silhouettes at the end. One which was definitely Pac-Man. That's obviously the Tekken side, the Namco side. The other looks like it might be Mega Man, but then again, a lot of people pointed out that the big muscular build doesn't really look like it could be Mega Man. And some people have said that it might actually be Frank West from the Dead Rising series dressed up as Mega Man, because we've seen that. So that's another thing that might be going on there. So that's some news from Street Fighter Cross Tekken, not Tekken Cross Street Fighter. That's a different series. As a matter of fact, let me talk about Tekken Cross Street Fighter so far. There are only 4 characters. This is the one that Namco's developing, so it'll play more like Tekken, so I won't be interested in it. But we know that Din, Devil Jin, Ryu, and Evil Ryu are in it, and they've hinted that Ken and Chun-Li are in it. Of course Ken and Chun-Li are in it. It'd be stupid to think that they wouldn't be in it. I do have some interesting news about Capcom. Capcom has teamed up with I don't know if I'd really call this a charity, but it's an organization called CALM, which is a acronym that means Campaign Against Living Miserably, and they are an anti-suicide organization. So I don't know if I'd really call it a charity, because they're not giving things away, but they are an anti-suicide league, so to speak, and Capcom is teaming up with them by selling off, they're auctioning off some Street Fighter Cross Tekken stuff, including 30 copies of the game that are signed by the producers, and some other stuff like merchandise and stuff, all signed stuff, and all the proceeds will go to CALM. So that's kind of interesting. So good on Capcom for doing that. I was going to talk about this. Portions of the gaming community want to boycott E3, but apparently that's not going to happen. It had to do with SOPA, and although SOPA has been shelved, obviously I was still going to talk about it, because the whole thing was the ESA is behind E3 and the ESA supports SOPA, but the ESA has indeed, in the face of this possible boycott of E3, reversed their decision and are now opposing the bills. So, there's your victory. My last news story is about BioShock Infinite. Very much looking forward to this. Now, apparently, BioShock Infinite has an alternate mode called 1999 mode, which is a hardcore mode, basically, that makes it a lot more difficult. So it's sort of an, like a old school hard mode. Now, personally, I'm having a hard time thinking of 1999 as being old school. But whatever. Apparently, the characters also look all beat up and everything too. Personally, I like that 1999 mode. Make it harder. Personally, I think they should, as a joke, put in a 1989 mode, and there you get no saves. You can't save the game, and you get 3 lives, and then if you die 3 times, it's game over. That would be funny, and maybe they could throw in a few extra lives here and there that you can get. But that would be funny. 1989 mode. That's what I want to see. But that's whatever. That's what they're doing. It's an interesting concept, and it's another way to play BioShock Infinite. Maybe if you've beaten it and got all the endings and everything, and giving it some more replay value. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to end the show as I always do with the sales figures for this time. It's the week ending in January 14th. Let's talk about the top-selling games in America. The number 1 top-selling game in America was Kinect Adventures for Xbox 360, which sold 79,934 copies. Just Dance 3 for the Wii sold 75,114 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 for the Xbox 360 sold 60,306 copies. Zumba Fitness for the Wii sold 55,224 copies. Mario Kart 7 for the 3DS sold 50,094 copies. Super Mario 3D Land for the 3DS sold 46,506 copies. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim for Xbox 360 sold 40,148 copies. NBA 2K12 for Xbox 360 sold 37,525 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on PlayStation 3 sold 35,066 copies. Zumba Fitness 2 on the Wii sold 31,967 copies. In Europe, the number one selling game was Just Dance 3 on the Wii, which sold 64,280 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on PlayStation 3 sold 45,949 copies. Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS sold 41,677 copies. Zumba Fitness on the Wii sold 40,085 copies. Super Mario 3D Land on 3DS sold 39,067 copies. Star Wars The Old Republic on PC sold 36,842 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 for Xbox 360 sold 36,050 copies. FIFA Soccer 12 on PlayStation 3 sold 34,005 copies. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim on PlayStation 3 sold 33,008 copies. And Kinect Adventures on the Xbox 360 sold 32,637 copies. Over in Japan, the top-selling game was Super Robot Wars OG Saga Masu Kishin 2 Revelation of Evil God. That's for the PlayStation Portable, and it sold 80,529 copies. Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS sold 53,943 copies. Monster Hunter 3G on the 3DS sold 45,273 copies. Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS sold 39,936 copies. Inazuma 11 Go for 3DS sold 21,513 copies. Musu Orochi 2 for PlayStation 3 sold 21,139 copies. Spirit Camera The Cursed Memoir for 3DS sold 16,897 copies. Final Fantasy 13-2 for PlayStation 3 sold 13,763 copies. Just Dance Wii on the Wii sold 12,366 copies. And Ace Combat Assault Horizon Legacy on the 3DS sold 11,505 copies. So looking worldwide, the top 10 best-selling games were Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS, Just Dance 3 on the Wii, Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS, Kinect Adventures on the 360, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on 360, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 for PlayStation 3, Zumba Fitness on the Wii, Super Robot Wars OG Saga Musu Kishin 2 Revelation of Evil God on the PlayStation Portable. I love saying that title. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim on the 360, and then the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim on PlayStation 3. For hardware, in North America, the top-selling console was the Xbox 360, which moved 103,227 units. At number 2 was the 3DS, which moved 96,694 units. The PlayStation 3 moved 65,139 units. The Wii moved 62,804 units. I can't believe they're still selling. How many people don't have a Wii at this point? I'm sorry, I gotta break in here. Doesn't everybody fucking have the Wii at this point? I get, then again, I'm surprised everybody doesn't have an Xbox 360. But I'm just amazed these systems are still selling so well. I guess it's a good thing. I'm sorry, I broke out of it there. Let's move back into it. The DS moved 31,567 units, and the PSP moved 15,456 units. The Vita hasn't come out here yet. In Europe, the top-selling system was PlayStation 3, which moved 92,621 units. The 3DS moved 68,819 units. The Xbox 360 moved 59,705 units. The Wii 48,442 units. The PSP 28,462 units, and the DS 27,796 units. In Japan, the big seller was the 3DS, moving 104,385 units. Everything else did not so well. Everything else had low sales. PlayStation 3 moved 29,537 units. PSP 22,049 units. The Vita 17,031 units. The Wii 12,804 units. The DS 2,720 units, and the Xbox 360 1,350 units. Globally, the big selling unit was the 3DS. PlayStation 3 was second, Xbox 360 was third, Wii was fourth, PSP was fifth, DS was sixth, and the PlayStation Vita's last, although that'll only come out in Japan anyway, so hopefully it'll move up once it hits that international release date. So, that's the show for this week. I hope my political ranting didn't get you too bent out of shape. If you didn't like it, then I don't know, go blow a guy. I don't care. But leave me some questions and comments if you want to be on the show. Contact me on Skype, VMX on Skype, or just message me. Get me on either YouTube or Facebook or AIM or whatever. And join the Facebook group I don't need to say that, do I? I mean, that's everybody fucking knows that. Just facebook.com/NecroVMX. That'll be the show. See you next week. VMX out.